morning, Doug. So here we are sitting in our, well, nobody knows it yet, but the 2B new office here in the next, month.
Yeah.
Month and a half,
Active
right?
job site, so if you hear some pounding, some hammering, some stuff going on.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. So we figured we'd start a podcast here and have an episode here since we have other things we're doing too. So
Absolutely.
thank you everyone for joining in. Kind of today what we're going to talk about is a little bit more on mentorship. So maybe not as much in commercial real estate, but how young people can get into commercial real estate, how people get into business in general, and really like the right way that we've found that it works, right? So how I did it when I came from college into working with you and where we're at today. And then obviously you've done a bunch of these as well, mentoring people. It's something you've always done in your past. So that's what we're going to go through today, to kind of give some insights, like try to drive it home a little bit and help people out, for people who are looking for that next thing and like want to grow and want to become big in the long run, not the short run, right? Because that's the one thing with it, is that everyone wants like the quick flip. I did too when I was younger. And then it's, no, how do we not have that, but how do we think about the future, right? What's the long-term path? And that's a tough conversation that we even have with the young guys today.
It is, and the path to success and the path to building wealth does not happen in a minute in your lifetime, right? Now, do you want to be when you're 85 and you finally get to harvest all your cash and your wealth? Probably not. But there is a process and kind of a procedure that you need to go through to be able to get there. And I think that, as we've worked on our journey together, it's interesting that now you're starting to mentor others in the organization, and probably even taking some of those same tips and tricks that I gave you. Not that they're perfect by any stretch, but just things that we had some good conversations about early on. I remember that, and I think that that idea around building wealth, is truly something that you and the rest of our team are going to absolutely be able to harvest at now and into the future, into your career. But it didn't come without a bunch of hard work, right?
Correct.
And so, as maybe one of those first things when the first day you walked into the office, like what was the thing that kind of was maybe not shocking, but just different than what you were anticipating coming straight out of college?
I think a lot of it is like when you're in college or you're like jumping into a job, call it, right? You want to like provide value. You want to like jump right in and like give insight and like talk, right? Because like you feel like you need to provide value right away, right? But that's not necessarily always the case, right? One of the things that we always talked about was you don't necessarily speak until you're the smartest person at the table, right? So it's okay to sit at a table and not speak if you're not really going to add any value, right? Obviously, you don't want to sit there and be mute and like act like you're not listening, but there's a difference between sitting there and actively listening to a conversation and learning, because then somebody will bring it up like, well, what about you, right? Like, what's your story? And then you can say why, right? Or like, you get to that table, you're like, I'm new, I'm learning, just kind of taking everything in, right? Compared to being that younger person that jumps into a meeting and then it's like boom, 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 and it's like you were not even close to any of the conversations. And the funny part is, I still do that today, right? So I think at the times like we went to Sioux Falls that first time, meeting with some of our professional groups up there. I wasn't the smartest guy at that table about what the conversation was, so I sat there and just watched, right? And then I get called out for eyeing them up, right? But it's like that, that's what I'm doing. I'm learning, right? So you're still learning when you're not the smartest person at the table, and that's okay, because that's how you learn faster. But it is a hard thing for somebody to think about doing, because you may feel like you're not providing value, but you're providing yourself value.
You mentioned something that's pretty interesting, and we talk a lot about it, is the story, right? Everybody's got a story.
Yeah.
When you first came in, and for new young people just entering the market, whether it's CRE or anything to that degree, starting to work on your story, right? Your story is basically your life, right? The story of your life. But you kind of start working on the things that you add to it. So you're a kid from Kimball, you play baseball, and when people ask you about that, you start to convey your story. Is it interesting how many times a couple sentences in and all of a sudden somebody's got a connection with you, right?
Yeah, it's weird. Like you do, right? Like you have connections with everyone, even if you don't know it, right? We are in meetings all the time where it's like, oh yeah, I have a cabin out on this lake. Yeah, I know exactly where it's at. Or then you're at the restaurant that we always go to or whatever. So it helps break down that barrier. If you have even the smallest story, it doesn't have to be like you're out of college, right? You don't have a huge story.
Yep.
I get it. But like, you went to school somewhere, you like to do something for fun, maybe you played sports. Where did you go for school? Like, what are you majoring in? Like, there's like 5 or 6 things that like are you.
And I think the one thing that to add to that, and it was early on that you and I talked about it, is the dream, right?
Yeah.
Because part of your story is, what do you want to become when you grow up?
Yeah,
right?
or like, why are you here?
Yeah. And it was interesting this morning, or last night, I was coaching a young person who had sent me their resume, and I was totally ready to connect them up with 4 or 5 people in town. Probably didn't fit for what we needed, but I believe in that pay it forward, plant seeds, and someday you'll sit underneath the shade of that tree. But what was interesting, I literally had an email typed, gonna hit send. I'm like, I should just really look at her resume. I'd met with her a couple times, so I knew she was a good person and really what her dream was. And I looked at the resume and I'm like, I can't forward this to anybody. Like, this didn't tell me about what she wanted to accomplish, what kind of value she was gonna bring to the organization that she was gonna end up with. And I just emailed her back. I said, you gotta redo your resume. Like, this is not a compelling reason to even have a conversation with you, because it was certainly the things that she did in college for jobs, and it doesn't always reflect what you're going to do for a career.
Totally.
But her story that she could tell in that resume was, I went to college, right? Didn't even tell me really what it was. And so I think as young people thinking about that, really start working on your story and then end with your dream. Like, hey, I'm a kid from Piers. I want to build a construction company, someday. I want to do this. And then what was the other aspirations, right? And
well, the environment's tough, right? So like, it's even like us when we're hiring people, right? People apply. I look at their resume, right? We get hundreds of resumes. I look at them for 2 seconds. If it doesn't say something compelling, or it doesn't, like, within it isn't like, the person isn't boasting enough about like what they've done, like, pass.
So if you think about it though, right? If there was a way that young people could really push what they think they can bring to an organization, because a lot of times they're always bragging about what they did. I know Excel, I know Word, I know Sage, I know all this computer systems, or the classic, I worked on, right? Well, What does that mean? You did 1 day's class in that? That doesn't add any value to me. But if the person actually inverted the statement and said, I can bring value in in these things, then the reader, the person that's looking to hire, can quickly understand, like, okay, this person truly does have some things, because they're promoting the fact that they can add value to that.
Totally.
Yeah.
Or if you reach out to somebody, right, on LinkedIn or whatever it is, say what you do, or like make sure, like, if you're doing that, like, your LinkedIn matches what you're actually trying to do, right? Like, we've hired interns through LinkedIn. We have another one starting this summer, and the reason is because, like, they post on LinkedIn about what they're doing in the industry.
Yeah.
They're pushing that stuff forward. It's like, I can instantly, like, okay, this person messaged me, click on their profile. Okay, well, they obviously are really committed to this. They like this. They own a business. They want to get more into commercial real estate. They want to learn. Perfect fit. It's like not even a question. Like, I don't even need to go through the interview. The interview is more about, like, do I like you as a person? Like, I already know you like the industry.
Do you fit in our culture, right?
Right. Like, that's literally all it is, which is how it should be. Because if you have to go down the route of, like, both sides, then it makes it just that much harder for an employer.
And employers are not spending a ton of time looking at those resumes. I mean, like you said earlier, I don't even know for this last position, we've had a couple hundred emails come through with people, I'm sure from all over the United States and stuff, but it's interesting. I mean, to decipher through that, we can use AI now to, put it in there and pull out some of the things, but if there isn't any compelling words or statements that catch AI's eyes or your eyes as you're reviewing it, this thing just hits the garbage can as fast as it came in.
Correct. Because, I mean, you need to be able to, on the resume, look in and say, okay, XYZ person, like, fits the role from a job description that we post, right? And that's really important. So then when we have the call or we meet, I can focus on culture, right? Because obviously the person needs to be qualified, right? Which is what the resume should show. But then more importantly is the culture fit, is the training fit with how we run our personal, professional, financial goals, our one-on-ones, our development plans, our employee maturity models. All of that stuff is more about what the focus is on that interview.
Yeah. And I think too that, when I talk to a lot of college people graduating, and I'm like, you have a specific opportunity to open up any door in the community that you live in or where you want to work,
Yep.
right? Because you're a college kid.
Yep.
Once you graduate from college and you become the working class,
It's different.
it's different. And so take the opportunities. I know sometimes people look at my calendar like, why are you spending an hour with this person? You don't even know them. And I'm like, I give them credit that they had
They reached out. They deserve the time.
That's already an attribute in somebody, you know, something that I see in somebody that's already above everybody else in their class, because they're doing something.
Yep.
They're trying to be proactive to their job and their career. So I'm going to give them an hour. Might not go any further. I might say, hey, this isn't for us. But I can also open a few doors that help them maybe achieve, you know, their first job or.
Correct. I mean, I look at literally all the interns that we've brought in, right? One got me when he was working at the vitamin shop, pulled me aside. Do you work there? Yeah, I work this. Well, I'm in real estate. Like, I want to, like, can I intern with you? Mm-hmm. Okay, and college kids don't do that, right? Reach out on LinkedIn and then follow up and follow up and follow up, right? A lot of the times, like, because how busy we are, if somebody just sends me one message, like, I might not respond, but all of a sudden if I get 2 or 3, like, I respond, right? Because it's like, okay, this person really wants to meet me and do something. It's not just like a one-off email, right? But to your point, when you just said with college kids, and that's a huge thing. When you're in college, I don't care what industry you're going into, message the top people in the industry. You will get a meeting.
Yep.
I would almost guarantee.
And people like challenge me on that. I'm like, oh, I can never get a call with that person. Did you try? You only get what you try. You only get what you ask for. Mm-hmm. And if you never ask, you're never going to get it.
Correct.
So if you can't answer those 3 questions, then I'm not going to spend any time with you.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, that's what I did in school, right? I mean, obviously we had the SCSU alumni from a real estate perspective at that point. And so you could call any one of them and you'd get a meeting, and I did, right? Even now, like, I still could, but it's not the same, right? You can't ask the same questions. And so I even challenged one of the guys on our team to do so, because he's still in school, he's not graduated yet. And I just said, dude, you just need to call people. Like, you have the alumni list. Like, I would rather you, while you're working here, call and set up 10 meetings a month compared to calling 10 property owners to set up potential deals for us to buy. Why? Because that helps you better long term.
Yeah.
You're going to learn more from those 10 people than you will trying to buy real estate, right? And obviously, like, we want him to buy real estate, but that will help him longer, which is more important in my opinion.
And I think then when you get those meetings, be curious, right? Think about, 4 or 5 questions that are.
Yeah. Don't waste their time, right? Like, come in with a plan and agenda, like, even before it, say, like, this is what I want to meet about, this is what I'm doing, this is where I want to be, so I want to talk with you to see how you got to where you're at, and have your 5 to 10 questions. And the beauty of today is with AI, if you're struggling trying to figure out the questions, use AI to help you make the questions up.
Yeah.
Right? So it's wild.
No, and there's a ton of opportunity out there yet. I think of, when I see different businesses in the community looking for good people, you just got to put yourself on the plateau of being a valued, good individual to their team, and the success is going to come. Like, it will absolutely come.
And today's even harder. I mean, with AI moving the way it is, employers changing the way they are, like, so much. It's almost like the employee or the interviewee needs to ask just as many questions as the company was interviewing, right? Because you may be interviewing, but how do you understand what the culture is if you're the right fit, right? So it's almost like it needs to be switched, right? You need to be more curious about the employer, because it has such a drag on your career. And if you're at a place for 6 months because you didn't like the culture, which is something that could have been reasonably figured out through asking questions, it looks bad on your resume.
Yep.
Because now you just, jumped a job, which, do I care about? No, but, like, if I have 10 people that apply and one has, like, a job set up of, like, 6 months, like, I might not interview them unless I have to. I might only interview the other 9.
I was watching a podcast the other day, and this it was somebody that works in the recruiting industry, but he said the question that most applicants should ask and don't is, if you sat back 6 months from now and you looked at me as the new employee and you said, Doug, you've crushed it out of the park.
Yeah.
This is what success would look like to me. as the employer. Instead of showing off how much I can do and what I can do and stuff like that, have them explain to you as the employer, because if they can't explain to you, to your point earlier, the culture and the mentality of what success might mean to them might not align with what you want as the employee. And so then you're 6 months in and you're realizing like, oh my gosh, this was a bad choice. So asking those tougher questions from employers, I think, is actually a really unique opportunity for the employee to learn and go, okay, now I really align. Like this, I can see myself here for 5 years. Because the employers, all they want to know is, are you going to be here from, what are you going to be here in 3, are you going to be here in 3 to 5 years? What is the employee supposed to say? I don't even know anybody here. I don't know anything about this. So having that employer flip that question a little bit, I think was a cool idea and a way for the employees to learn more.
Well, and you should do your homework too. I think that's one of the bigger ones is like, and I ask a lot of open-ended questions about like, what do you know about us? What questions do you have about us, right? Because if you do your homework and like when we do when we put a job out there, like we have a job description, right? But it also has our core values, our mission, our vision. It has a whole bunch of stuff about our company, what they can do to be successful, like what the requirements are, what the competencies are. Like I give you all of it. It's not just a vague thing. Like I give you everything. And then you have access to our websites, our socials, and everything else. So going into an interview, if you really want to work with us, you should know us a bunch about the company. You should be able to ask questions. And so if I ask you one of the questions and like you don't have a response or questions to ask backwards, because a lot of times I will flip the switch more and be like, do you have questions for us?
Yeah.
What other questions you got? What other questions you got, right? Because I want to understand more about like that person and what their commitment is if they want to work with us. Because if you want to work with us, the culture is probably better, and then I can dig into that. But like if you're just interviewing or you sent out 40 applications for jobs and you haven't looked at us before the interview, it's too much of a telling sign to me.
So we've been together for several years now. I've mentored you. You've been a great mentee, I guess is the word. Now you become the mentor, right? And if you were to tell somebody today, like, what are some criteria that you look at? Let's go down that 6 months of employment, right? And you're going, okay, this has been an absolute success or an absolute bomb. What would be a couple things that you would say, like, obviously the easy ones, they show up every day, they do their job, but what are the more intrinsic things that you would look at and go, I don't have to tell this person to do something twice, or they pick up quickly, or what are some of the things that you've learned now as a leader that you would?
Well, one of the things we always look at, right, is in this industry, and I think it's probably the same in most professional industries, is that it takes 3 years to be able to do stuff yourself, right? Somewhat. It can be a lot faster if you're really committed, but that was how it was for me. But a couple of the things for me is some of the stuff that we talked about: being committed, being obsessed, and being curious, right? And what that really means and how those things really tie together is, are you coming in during the day and you're just a body there, or do you need hand-holding about how to get something done or like what you should do next, right? Or are you asking the right questions, and by asking the right questions, I just mean asking questions, right? So you understand. In our line of work, any line of work, you get into meetings and we're saying XYZ, IRR, cap rates, cash on cash, like all of these terms, and nobody knows what they mean. But are you asking the questions on what they mean and then digging into it after that and being like, okay, I got to research this to figure this out. Like I need to know what this actually means.
Right.
And so that's probably the biggest thing. And then trying to find ways to provide value, right? If it's like, Austin, I see you're doing this. Can I take this from you? Yeah, go give it a shot. Like, I'm not going to, I know you're not going to have it perfect, but that's okay. Like, it's more about, are you able to go through a process and kind of figure out a way to get through an end to something? And you can ask questions along the way, but, you're committed to yourself and you feel confident in yourself to get to a point where it's like, okay, this is what I did, this is how it turned out, and then talk through it, right? It's not about being right. It's about, did you have the ability to build something by yourself and make it, and then feel confident enough to just talk your way through it, right? So it's kind of building that mentality.
So I'll flip the script for a second. So when we were mentoring, right, and at what point did you tell me, and is there a point where you could almost point at and go like, okay, this is the moment that Doug trusted me to go do my first thing or to be on my own and present a project like that, where it was like, okay, that time frame had gone on, those things happened, and I had trust, right, that you could do it. Is there a moment that you can, in your mind, that you look at, you go, yeah, I remember that day?
It was probably, and it wasn't perfect, right? I remember it was more or less one of my first deals I did by myself. It was probably the Insomnia Cookies lease, right? Which was kind of a little bit of everything. Like, I didn't know much about HVAC, but we were splitting a bigger unit into two and had to deal with how the HVAC worked and how the shared bathroom would work, and how that build out would go, right? So I would say that was probably the first one where I put it together, went through all the walkthroughs, did all the meetings, did all the things around it, right? I didn't have to do a lot with construction, but it was more about switching out, like, how does an HVAC unit get flipped to that way to then work for medical or work for retail, and how much more HVAC do we need to add? And reading those leases are always a pain anyways. So I would say that was probably the one.
And confidence at that point was probably pretty low yet.
Oh, it was still, like, I was still figuring it out, right? I was still going through stuff. I think I was still calling you when I was walking, like, what does this mean? Or like, how does this thing work? But the point of that, what I just said before, right, is like, I'm building it and then I'm asking a question I don't know, so I can keep building it. Then I'm asking a question I don't know, so I can keep going, right? I'm not like, Doug, can you walk through this whole thing with me and like take an hour to like see where I'm at, because I'm just stuck and I'm done, right? Like, that's the one thing you can't be, is get to a spot where you're stuck and can't move forward. You got to find a way to move forward.
And that's a good point about mentorship, right? Is that someday, you take the little bird and you start to teach the bird how to fly, and then someday you fling it up in the air and you're going, fly or fall. You're going to do one of the two things. If you didn't learn how to perfectly fly, that's okay. But at some point, during that 1 to 3 year period. But it does. It's, commercial real estate specifically, right? Because we're wrapping in construction, finance, title, hazardous materials, surveys, land, legal, right? Wrapping around land and contracts and things like that. It's not something you can come out of college and go.
I don't think you can even like, because you've seen other people in like called the business industry and then go into it. Like, you can do that and you're like further along, but like even today, like every deal, like we run into something, it's like, I've never seen that, or that's a different way of doing it, I guess.
5 years in construction, I'm still seeing stuff today that we're.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the environmental company, the title company, the architect firm, the attorneys. Everyone wants to do something a little bit different.
And our world is constantly changing.
And it changes every single time. And it has to be perfect, right? It's like the SNDAs we just did for the Walgreens deal we just acquired yesterday, finally closed on.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah. But the SNDAs had to be done a perfect way because it's for Walgreens, right? So if you don't do it the right way, or like one thing is wrong, it gets kicked back.
Yep.
Why? Because they have how many thousands of leases, right? And for them to have to like relook at every single one when the building sells, that would be insane.
And I'm going to go back to a point you made earlier then. So as a young person getting into commercial real estate, right? There is zero chance that you're going to walk out of college and understand how SNDAs work, how Walgreens works, how any of this works. So being in the room where it happens, right? I'll say it this way, inviting yourself in the room where it happens, sitting at the table where it happens, and then listening, right? And understanding. But the biggest thing, and you mentioned earlier, asking the question maybe after it's done, going, why did that happen that way, right? So then 2 or 3 years down the road, when you've got 10 projects, 15 projects, you can go, okay, I saw how Austin handled this. And this is how I probably am going to respond to it.
Yep.
That's how mentorship honestly transacts that time period and works.
Yep.
Right? Because now that person's acting like Austin did at that table, maybe doesn't understand it perfectly yet. But the problem with our industry is, and I'll say it's a problem, and it's also an opportunity, it's got to be perfect. Right?
It has to be.
If those attorneys, or yesterday I was on a call for a construction project down in the cities, 35 people on this call, and I'm spearheading the whole project leadership team, and I'm like, after I got done, it was Melissa and Calvin, and I think somebody else was sitting in with me, and I'm like, now how did I do, number one, but number two, I had to be the orchestra maestro, right? And if I didn't know my stuff, or I hadn't worked hard to understand my business in the construction industry, I wouldn't have been able to ask those questions.
Totally.
People would have looked at me and went, Doug, move aside.
Move aside. This is not, you're not professional.
I want to deal with somebody else. And we've had those calls where it's like, hey, I like Jimmy.
Yeah.
But Jimmy ain't quite cutting it here. I want to deal with Austin.
Yep.
I want to deal with
it happens.
And that happens. And so, again, I think the questions, but immersing yourself in the industry is the only way you're going to understand. Mm-hmm. Sitting at the table from 8 to 5, yeah, you're going to pick up some stuff, but you have to want to be in this industry. You have to want to learn to be absolutely detail oriented beyond what you think you want to be. You have to be twice that much.
No, you're exactly right. And that's how it worked. I mean, when I look at you and I, right, I sat next to you, I followed you to every meeting, I went to every meeting to take notes. That's what I did. I took notes, right? But that's how I was able to learn the different ways to get to where we're at today. And that's the same thing Calvin's doing. So it is important to do that, right? But it also is tough because when you have a team full of younger people, you can't have 5 people following you everywhere either, right? So you gotta figure out the blend for it.
And I apologize, they're cutting conduit right next to us, so we're gonna keep on cruising. But we're putting conduit up to a new reception desk.
Yep.
So more to come on that one. But any other mentorship tips that you would have for somebody today, like things that we talked about, or things and tips that you've picked up through, watching others in the industry and stuff like that, that maybe be good for a young listener to hone in on?
Yeah, I think we covered a bunch of them, which was really good. But then it's also that side learning, right? Still of spend the time by yourself, whether it's through podcasts, through audiobooks, or through books if you like to read, and immerse yourself into like other ways of thinking, right? Especially when you're young, you want to spend your time, you want to like focus on something, but like you want to get a broad knowledge of whether it's business, leadership, management, finances, like whatever it is, you want a broad like horizon on that, different perspectives on like the overall idea, but then you can niche down into like what you're actually doing with commercial real estate, right? So like if your goal is investment sales, okay, like yeah, we'll broaden, like you're gonna do investment sales, like that's what your focus is, right? But like be okay like still reaching out and talking to like a property management company, or like learning about blue collar business or any type of leadership or anything else, because that makes your like brain just so much bigger and the ability to like work in different areas.
Well, and it's interesting because, and to be quick about it, but if you look at commercial real estate, you say, I'm going to get into commercial real estate, right? And you compare it to residential real estate. Residential real estate is truly, and I'm going to simplify it, selling homes.
Yeah, facts.
Pretty simplistic, right? Commercial real estate broadens out into 5 or 6 different sectors of, and you said it, property management, asset management, maintenance, facilities, the actual act of selling and leasing commercial real estate, owning commercial real estate. Any one of those you can actually become specialists in, versus just being a commercial real estate agent.
Totally.
But when you specialize, what I believe is that you lose that broader aspect and the visibility to how the deals actually come together. So as commercial real estate development and as capital builders now, we are at the top of that pyramid, right? So there's nobody to save us because we're at the tip of the spear. So we have to understand how everything flows down off of that, which means we have to know property management, asset management, maintenance, all those different things. So we can't be specialists. We have to be generalists, but then specialists almost at the
and everything else,
right? And everything else. So it's just no right or wrong answer in that. But as a commercial real estate young person getting into it, those are different tracks that I think it's good to explore. It's good to talk to different people and go, hey, why do you guys do this? Or why is that just so different than what I thought it was going to be? To your point earlier, be curious, ask questions, right? Questions are free, as a student, and you'll find your home, and you'll also find your passion. And I think that's one thing that, you and I early on talked about, like, what do we want to do? What do you want to do? Mm-hmm. And it's taken a lot of different courses. Today with Inventure Capital, that is now kind of going to be our flagship, right? But that is where we feel is our greatest attributes can be served. We can serve our clients the best. We have the best opportunity for building wealth, and it's our passion, right? So while construction and development and all these things come with it, the passion about creating a capital company is really foremost for you and I.
Yeah, totally. No, you're exactly it. And that's to the point like we just talked about all the way through, right? Is we do all of these things, right? And so we're good at everything that we do. We also have good team members that are really good at those things,
Absolutely.
right? So that you and I can focus on where we want our focus to be, what our true passion is, what our true stuff is, and that's working with investors to help them build wealth through commercial real estate, right? And that's for them and for us and for our team. So that's what we want our focus to be. But then we have the team that can help us do everything else, but we still are smart enough in all the things, so when we have to step in and help, we can help.
Absolutely.
Right? So
Good stuff.
no, this was good, Doug. I mean, talking about mentorship, I think is huge in today's day and world because people need it. People don't know how to ask it. And in today's world, like we can help mentor people by talking like this, right? Which is cool. Compared to like having to have 500 cups of coffee to talk about the same subject, right? So, no, I appreciate everyone listening in today, watching, or wherever you're finding us. Please feel free, follow, like, so you can help us out to continue doing this overall. And again, if anyone ever has questions, you know where to find us through our socials, our YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, however you find us. Feel free to send us a message, write comments on our stuff, and we're more than happy to help. So everyone have a great day, and until next time.
Go crush it.